places, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Unsung. I really appreciate you all joining in and taking part. I have a guest today that, although him and I are recently acquainted, I've heard a lot of great things about before I met him, and then when I did meet him, those things were really quite true. He works with Andrzej Rishka a lot of you guys out there, gals out there know Andrzej. And he's just one of those solid cats, both in temperament, personality, and musicality. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Ray DUHAIME. Ray, how the hell you doing?
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. You're looking good.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, I try. You don't have to. That's great, man. Let me just kind of start out because you and I are newly acquainted. You know, you started running some sound at this church or whatever, and then you transitioned to bass, and playing with you has been very, very good for me. In terms of the guy, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better, and I think the people would like to maybe know a little bit more about you too. So I'm just wondering, where do you come from? Where were you born?
I was born in Sudbury, Ontario, North Bay, Sudbury, that area, quite a few decades ago. And yeah, spent probably the first third of my life there, and then moved to Calgary, or towards Calgary, ended up in Calgary.
What year did you end up in Calgary?
I think it was I'm just guessing, they're 85, early 80s, say 85, around there.
Were you playing music? You must have been playing music back in Sudbury and
Yes,
North Bay?
Polly and me, that's my wife, we met at little music college. I was studying upright, did that for a couple of years.
Do you play upright?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
And I failed the course because I was just playing and jamming, but I got to play with the orchestra, so I learned lots of stuff there. I learned that I should have learned how to read, but I would try to memorize everything. Yeah, and then so my wife and I, we met at that college, and we ended up starting a little band. So that evolved into, touring a little bit. And then we met a steel player who had been from out here, or had been here in Calgary. And he was telling us that the swing stuff that we were trying to do was popular out here. People were two-stepping to it. But in Ontario, nobody would two-step as far as I remember. So they didn't really understand what we were trying to do.
So there wasn't a lot of two-stepping going on in Ontario?
No swing. I had to play it straight.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because we had discovered Bob Wills and stuff like that by then. And that's all we wanted to do, right? So, but we couldn't. So we had to come out here. So that's what we did. And then eventually, it worked.
Right. That's the rest of the story.
Yeah.
But let me back you up just a
Okay.
little bit. Let's walk this back. I'm interested, what was the scene like? Obviously, when did you start playing? Do you remember when you started actually, like gigging?
Playing? You've been playing something, or?
Yeah, like making some dough off playing.
That's probably around 16, 17.
What year would that have been? Sorry, we're going to give away your age.
Oh yes, yeah.
I'll cut it out.
My bass is a 73, and I bought that. My dad bought it for me. Kind of a bit of a story there. In 1973, and then I just paid him back. You know, I was doing. So I started around. It seems to me that would be around, let's say 16, 17.
In 73.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what was the scene like in Ontario at that time, 73, 74? I mean, music was pretty prolific
Yeah.
back then. So,
I never went to the cities, you know, like Sudbury and North Bay, to gig until later. So at first it was little tiny towns, you know, a population of 1,000 or something. There was a whole bunch of these. So these three musicians, two brothers, and a drummer, and eventually it was their brother. So these three brothers that I would gig with, we would do these little tiny towns, like one weekend after the other, you know.
huh,
Making, I think it was $90 for the weekend or something like that.
$90 for the weekend.
Yeah,
Wow. So almost like a gig in 2022.
yeah.
I'm kidding. I know we're making a little
Yeah.
bit more than that, but not a lot.
Not much has changed.
But at that point, did you feel like you were making a living, or was that yet to come from music exclusively?
I was paying back my base and my aunt,
Right, living at home.
yeah, on the farm.
Mhm.
So
And so, when you left home, when you left the farm, did you start playing music professionally, or did you go find like a day gig, or what were you doing?
it was mostly playing music. I installed baseboards for a while, which was kind of funny. Everybody at that job was at the college. So the idea was, at least I'm doing something bass-wise.
Right.
So just baseboards like that. So I did that for a few months, but I don't remember any other jobs that I did besides playing music.
Huh.
I think I would work for my brothers once in a while.
What were they doing?
Mostly things to do at the farm, because one of them had the farm, the other guy had his own farm.
So odd jobs, but it seems to me like what you may potentially be saying is that you were doing odd jobs as a hobby
Mhm.
and making a living playing music.
Mostly,
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't much of a living. you know.
Right. Right, because I suppose that in the bigger cities, there was probably more money for better gigs.
Yeah.
Like an A circuit, B circuit, C circuit, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's only, I think, when we got married, that we were gigging regularly and then making enough to pay the rent and etc. But before that, I was in and out of my parents' place, so I didn't have to have that much money.
Right, right.
I had a motorcycle, you know, $2 to fill it up. So,
And so from there, you decided to move out to Calgary
yes,
in 85,
around 85.
around 85. And to play music, correct?
Hmm.
What was the scene
Yes.
like around 85?
Music was a big scene, not like it is now, it seems like, because places were packed, and a lot of places were packed Monday nights. Now, Monday nights, you have to look pretty far to find something that's happening.
And typically that's going to be a jam, I think,
Yes.
if you're lucky.
Yeah. So it's evolved into a fraction of what it used to be.
Or devolved.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. And so back then, it was part of the culture almost, it seems.
Mhm. When I first started, there was no such thing as rock and country and blues. There was no bars like that. You would go and, you know, it was all, you would see what the band would play, and the band would play all these all these genres, it would be all mixed up. But nowadays, well, up until a few decades, like a couple of decades ago, you had blues bars and stuff like that.
That's an interesting thing, though. Like, that's very interesting that you say that, because I do remember growing up in the 70s, and I remember that, whether it was CKXL radio or, any other radio station would go from the Platters to the Carpenters
Yes.
to Rush, and there wasn't necessarily that sort of genre-specific thing that is so prevalent today, like you were saying. I guess there must have been a freedom then, in a sense, to really just being able to explore a lot of different places, musically speaking. That would have kept you sharp. Was it keeping your playing sharp?
I think so. You had to go from one genre to the other. You'd play a Merle Haggard tune, followed by a Doobie Brothers tune, followed by an old probably classic blues. We didn't do much blues back then, like me, but it was you would get that flavor, and then you'd have to try to find that song or something like that, so that you could verify if you were playing it right or not. Sometimes you wouldn't even have a recording. Somebody would be playing something and you would,
You ain't going to
make up
YouTube.
a part. Yeah, right.
All right.
The YouTube. We didn't know what YouTube was coming.
Right.
But yeah, I think there was something interesting about that, and fun, and you wouldn't know what the band would be like until you would sit down and listen to it. But now you can go to let's say a country club. Yes and no, but you can expect what you're going to hear. There's not much of a surprise.
Meaning nowadays.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
there are some, which is fun. That's good, but often even the repertoire would be similar.
Let me ask you a question. In those days, and if you can't answer this because you don't recall or whatever, that's fine. But back in those days, did it feel like you were playing? Did it feel like the people were dictating to you? Was it more your freedom to express you, or their freedom to say, "Hey, if you don't do this, we're out"?
I think it was more. There was more freedom of playing what you wanted to play. You'd probably have requests, and then whether or not. But I think there was more. This is the song we're gonna, or you want to sing this song. Let's do it. Then I want you to do this song, so let's do it. It wasn't necessarily dictated by a radio station or the top 10 or the top 100. It was mostly dictated with the musicians I played with anyway.
Because it wasn't, if I'm reading you correctly, in some respect, everybody knew the music of that entire time, not just the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we would be able to pick even obscure tunes. But if you like the song, you would do it. Now, if you just do a song that you like, well, you'll clear the dance floor or something like that. But we didn't have. I think there were less people when I started. There were less people dancing than there are now. Now or out here. Maybe it's because people two-step here. And over there they don't. They just, whatever.
Shuck and jive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you give them a shuffle, what the heck is that?
Right. So you're saying that people were more of a listening crowd, perhaps,
I think so.
than one that the music was there to serve them necessarily. It seems to be like there was a greater mutuality between patron or audience and musician being the fact that it was a cultural experience, and the audience wasn't necessarily saying, like, just play me what I want. Is that a fair estimate?
I'm remembering some of that, yes.
Yeah.
There was, I don't remember an expectation to be doing the top 40. All I remember is just playing songs that people would like because it was a Merle Haggard tune or something they would like that. I didn't really care which one you would do, as long as you were doing a Merle Haggard tune or some, and it didn't. I don't think Merle Haggard was that important either. It was just a country song. Some people would so I guess there were some people who would prefer some styles, but they didn't mind like a Doobie Brothers song or mixed in there, you know, because the radio did it too. So maybe people accepted more variety.
Variety. Maybe that's the word, right?
And there were lots of variety shows.
Right.
Like
Laugh-In.
And like Ed Sullivan had, you know, classical pianists and Stones.
Right. And yet, culturally, in a sense, we accepted far more about each other's, perceptions or wants or desires, meaning that a lady could listen to her favorite Merle Haggard tune, but then the Carpenters would come on and she'd go,
Yeah.
oh, I like this too.
Oh yeah.
And so there was just kind of an acceptance of something that wasn't necessarily homogenized and wasn't so particular and so specific to one group of people, to one tribe in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody divided us. I remember listening to Frank Zappa talking about how the record producers, or not necessarily record producers, or the radio station people, was just a guy sitting behind a desk. I think he said, with a cigar, and somebody would come in, and he would listen to it, listen to the act, and he would decide whether he was going to sign him or not, or you know, give him a record deal or something.
Like the Aristocrats.
Yeah.
Sorry, I won't.
Yeah. So,
I won't tell that joke now, will I?
but it was up to him,
Right.
and he didn't know anything about music. He just thought, this is cool, or this is not cool, or whatever. So what Frank Zappa was saying is all sorts of acts would come in. And
A variety.
Yeah, you never knew what was coming in. Now you have people who know a lot about music, supposedly, and they don't want any to deviate from what they have right now that is making money. So they only allow certain acts to come through that door. And they tend to look similar and sound similar because that's what makes money. There's no room for gambles anymore.
Right, in terms of corporate, that corporate existence, I think the argument to that perhaps could be that, you know, there's a greater indie scene, or, you know, because of YouTube and things like that, and I don't disagree, but I also don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm not necessarily shitting on corporate here. I'm not saying that they're the devil. However, you do see their influence in the maybe de-evolution of at least what we've known, the freedom that we had in music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
I wonder if that has something to do with the reason we have less bars and less entertainment, less live entertainment at night or during the day too. Probably for the same reason. I'm just wondering if we started losing live venues when we had MTV. Everything was going to the TV. So you didn't have to go out to hear anything anymore. It was being broadcast. and the sound was always excellent.
Well, do you know what the first video was on MTV?
I don't remember. I think I heard that before. But
Yeah, video killed the radio star.
it was, eh?
Right.
Yeah,
And I think that was somewhat prophetic.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there was some sort of prophecy in the sense that, yeah, once you get behind the veil, and there's a duality there too, there's a balance of behind the veil. I do think that there is something sacred about the stage. Not in terms of your humanity, and not in terms of your celebrity, but in terms of the fact that, like you wouldn't give a scalpel to a guy that's never done surgery before. Neither would somebody who's never played guitar be necessarily allowed on a stage to perform. So I agree with it in that context.
I was just thinking, I guess we wouldn't have like a personality like Tiny Tim. That would never happen nowadays. But there was all these people with different acts showing up. Did Tiny Tim, did he probably got a top 10 song, Everybody had their turn.
Tiptoe through the tulips. Right?
Something like that.
That's it. Ukulele, let me ask you this. Did you feel a transitional moment in your career where the music that you were doing and running around, running your ass off, playing maybe 2 gigs a day, or, what I mean, having to be somewhere to play music every night, going here, going there, booked. Do you remember a moment where the threads started to unravel in that respect? Do you remember?
No, not, I can't pinpoint it. All I'm remembering is, I wish I could remember, but the 6-nighters, some of them were 7-nighters, became 4-nighters and 3-nighters. That was the beginning of that. So we were losing half of our week.
How'd that make you feel? Did you have any thought about it? Did you have any feeling?
At first it was positive because we had a break. Right? Because sometimes I worked with people who had to keep working all the time. So that would mean that I wasn't getting a break.
So there was that much music that you weren't able to take a break. That's quite astounding in and of itself.
Yeah, there's a string of years where that happened, and sometimes the break was welcome because it was nice to just put everything in the closet and go out and see people for a change.
Right, so you could kind of educate yourself in that respect. You could, you know what I mean? You could put the drumsticks down or the bass down for a night, go out and get educated by other great players.
Yes. Yeah.
Like your finances weren't going to be ruined by going to 4 nights.
Well, for some people it did, that's exactly what happened. But for some other people who had saved money, it wasn't that important. But we didn't know that it was never going to come back. Right?
That's a good. Let me ask you that question. Did you feel that when it went down, that it would bounce back to what it was?
I think we all imagined that it couldn't stay, in a smaller version of itself. It would have gone back, but it never did, I think.
Perhaps that you could sustain yourself in that moment of going down to 4 nights, but you couldn't do it forever. Right. So there was maybe not being able to define this new epoch in this moment of music, in the declination. Nobody really questioned it. They just said, it's gotta, it'll come back. Don't worry about it.
I think that's what we thought. But yeah, another thing is I remember putting my bass away for, I think it was 2 years. I didn't touch it. And then somebody phoned. So I thought, yeah, okay, for a gig. And I picked up my bass, and I'm left-handed. So I picked it up, and I put it on this side. And I tried that. No, put it back on this side. I was looking for something different. I think what happens is, after you play too much of one thing, after a while you don't want to play that anymore. That's what happened to me. I wanted to play something different.
Yeah, I think that in some ways that's just growth, right? You know.
I think so.
Yeah, like when I wouldn't have touched fusion when I was 16. It was everything I could do to play Detroit Rock City, you know.
Mhm.
But then once I went to school and went lessons in New Orleans and did all these things and did my 10,000 hours, then I felt comfortable and confident about going to the next level because I didn't want to remain just in the boom chick sphere of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sounds like growth. It sounds like you wanted to.
Yeah, I think I had gone to that rehearsal, and I think nothing happened with that, which was a good thing. And then I started listening to YouTube, to different world music stuff. And I put an ad in the fast forward. Remember we used to have a fast forward, asking somebody, is anybody doing anything different like that? And I got a call from a guy who was working in a Latin band, and he said, well, it's not really answering your ad, but we need a bass player for a Latin band. So I didn't say no.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing something completely different, which was very completely different. Out of 50 songs, I didn't know one of them. I'd never heard of one of them.
Nice.
Maybe one. And I had to learn 50 songs.
Plus you had to learn the bossa and the samba.
Yeah.
And were you playing upright?
I played my electric upright.
Oh, dude.
For strictly
Wicked.
for that.
Yeah.
And it worked well. And it looks like the Ampeg, what's it, a baby bass? Forgot what it's called.
Ah,
But it looks like that one, but it's not. It's a lesser one, made in China.
right.
But yeah, so that was fun, doing something completely different. And, blowing the intros and the shots and having to go home and do some homework and stuff. I had to learn how to count again.
Huh.
Because the bass doesn't play the one and the two. It plays I remember the conga player lady, she told me that I played the 2N and the 4. That's what I play. So you got to find the one, but don't play it.
Right. Well, I know the songo is that way,
Mhm.
that you don't play the one. Like samba bassa, those sorts of things you would play the pickup to 1 and 1 and the
Yeah.
pickup to 3 and 3. So you were learning, you were in that place. I mean, I feel that way right now, doing what I'm doing, whether it's this or documentaries and those kind of things. I just feel like I'm back to being 8 years old again, having to figure all my shit out. Everything is new,
Yeah.
and I love that feeling. If you don't mind, I just want to get back to the, so nobody really took the down to 4 nights or down to 5 nights that hard, except some people did that hadn't saved. You said, right?
Yeah, I think you can see that today too. Overall, it's the same thing. Some people can save money and some don't.
I used to have conversations with a buddy of mine, Brian Zarnicki, God rest him, and we would talk about sort of the new Deevolution in terms of civic music, and then we would see it come back, but it never rebounded back to that place. It always came short of that milestone or whatever, that place that we were at, say, 6 months before. But it would come back some way, but never stopping at its intended target. But then, so the new normal became this. And then it would suffer another declination, it would come back to here. So, you know what I mean? And that's kind of how we sort of felt about it, right? When it went down to, and I think you can quantify this, when 4 became 3, and when 3 became 2, and when 2 became 1, and then Ranchman's folds. And Ranchman's actually stopped having live bands before they folded. Or they were down to Saturday nights or something. They were down to 1 night. And Ranchman's was one of the stalwarts. Even the Forest Lawn Hotel remained, I think, at a back 6 or a back 5. And then even they, probably 2017, 18, maybe a little shy. Start becoming one, two, and then one, and then none.
I find the Cecil intriguing in that way, because they could keep going. Nobody else could, but somehow they could keep going, and I could never figure that out. The Cecil.
I know, and you're right. If you think about it, right? The Cecil outlasted the airliner. It outlasted,
Yeah.
shit, almost everybody. And I don't know. That's an interesting.
I did some gigs there.
I never gigged there. I picked a lady of the evening up there one time when I was driving cab. And that was the only, time I actually had to go into the Cecil. And I will have to say that I was a little trepidatious walking through those doors.
Yeah, I think towards the end it was becoming a dangerous place. But before that, it was okay. It was just, an old dirty place.
Right.
And being a musician, you're always safe. There was a rope across the dance floor, so nobody could get closer than about 4 feet to the stage. So as long, if you were on the stage, you were okay. And then during the breaks, you could go outside or way in the back or something like that. But I remember hearing stories towards the end that it wasn't, the cops or the bouncers weren't handling that place anymore. So,
It'd kind of been overrun.
yeah,
Yeah.
by some scary people.
Nefarious sources. Yes, yes.
But somehow they still managed to make some money and stay open. Make some money, I'm assuming.
Yeah, which is interesting because it was my observance, and I could be correct or incorrect, but my observance was that the people that typically patronized that establishment weren't the people that necessarily had a lot of money. And yet the money, it seemed, obviously continued to roll well enough that not only could they afford to stay open, they could afford a band to play.
Yeah.
Even after the Eddie.
What is the next thing that is going to bring people out again? I'm wondering, did people stop going out, or are they just going out somewhere different? And if they are going somewhere different, where is that? I don't know where it is. But it seems to me that the musicians have to find out where people are going and maybe be there, or else bring them somewhere else where musicians would want them to be, because they're missing out on all this live stuff. And you see a lot of that, when everybody's looking at their phone. Is that a good thing? Is that what we should be looking forward to in our future? Or should we be watching something live?
What you were saying about, we go to the people come to us. In respect to that, there are many, I think, there's so many dynamics around why there is a perceived or quantifiable declination in art and in music and in the proliferation of that, let's say. Civic proliferation of that. I think we can fairly say that. Somewhere at the foundation of this is that we need to engage one another again, perhaps not even in a musical sense, but in a real personal sense. There has to be a way that we can converse, diatribe, whatever, on a level that is as accepting as it was for us when we did it all those years ago. So there's a trust factor, I think, that's lacking with us today in terms of those things that we dare not speak of. Science and politics and health. That you leave that to the professionals, but we used to talk about it all the time. But we also trusted the institutions more than we trust them now. At this point, I'd love you to come back, because on camera and off camera, it seems like we are not at a loss. And I love that. I love talking to people that are open and just honest. Whether you're right or you're wrong, I don't care. You know what I mean? We could work that out if we converse, but if we don't converse, we ain't never gonna know. So I appreciate it, man. I thank you people for joining in today, and I shouldn't say you people, I should say, you know, just anyone who's interested out there in this. I've said it, I'm going to say it again, like I've said it before. I want everyone to come on this show. Artist, painter, musician, dancer, drama coach, I don't care. I want you all on here, and I appreciate you tuning in. So thank you for that. And I'm coming back at you hopefully within a week or so, and you know, there's some great guests coming up, and that could very well be you I'm talking to. So, you know, I hope that's the case. Love and respect, and we'll see you soon.